let's fix these.
What did he say his name was?
Gebatron. Alright, hopefully what we can do in this video is have a real deep conversation about some changes that could really improve the flamethrowers in Hell Let Loose. Some changes that will just improve their functionality on the battlefield and make them more of a useful tool instead of what actually seems to currently be a hindrance. Right off the bat, I need to say that I don't even know if all these changes would even be possible. I'm not a game developer or designer, and I'm sure that one of the reasons it took so long to get them in the first place, as Black Matter started teasing these very early in the game's life cycle, is that it was hard to implement them and they probably really impact performance. So just keep that in mind as we move forward. Make sure to leave your own ideas and thoughts on my proposals down in the comments so we can really hone in on what people are thinking. I recently maxed out my support role, and in doing so I played maybe, at least 6 matches straight, where all I played was the support role with the flamethrower loadout. I've played on and off with it before, but during these 6 matches I did not change loadouts because I wanted to get a really good look at these things in all situations. I do not recommend that the flamethrower be used like this. If you want to know what I do recommend, or maybe you don't even know how it works because you haven't unlocked it yet, then check out the video at the top right, and then come back to this one after that. Okay, on to my list. 1. Primary weapon. This one has 2 parts. Part A, as it is right now, the flamethrower is the loadout's primary weapon. This should not be the case. First off, this sends the message that this is your most versatile weapon, and it's not. It's highly specialized. Your pistol is more versatile and is what you should have equipped until you want to use your flamethrower. Furthermore, the game will always equip your primary weapon after doing tasks such as dropping your supplies. So every time you drop them, the game will automatically equip the flamethrower, and since you should really be going from point A to point B with your pistol, this adds extra steps to go from dropping supplies to being combat ready. The flamethrower is not a reaction weapon. It's a deliberate weapon. It's a support weapon. Your pistol is a reaction weapon and should be your primary weapon. Imagine if the AT role had the rocket launcher as its primary weapon. What kind of message would that send to the player, or how annoying would it be to have to switch to your rifle all the time? Same for the flamethrower. I think this design choice actually led to a lot of bad feedback early on, as people would be posting videos of them running through more open areas where a flamethrower is not suited, and then an enemy would pop up and they'd, be at a major disadvantage. They would then say that the flamethrower is useless, and it's like, well, yeah, you should have had your pistol out. Or perhaps you would have had your pistol out had the game kind of helped, lead you down that path in the first place. So my first proposal is change the flamethrower to be your secondary weapon. Part B, let's talk about what that primary weapon should actually be. Most people are probably going to disagree with me here, but I'm absolutely fine with the pistol being the primary weapon of the loadout. This is a specialized loadout with a focus on squad support, not an individual combat role. Its focus is on helping teammates achieve their goals versus achieving an individual goal. In this way, it's much like the medic role. Because of these reasons, I'm absolutely fine having limited firepower. That being said, I would not be opposed to having a more capable primary weapon if it came with limited ammo. Again, much like the medic role. And now I know a lot of you are saying, well, yeah, but the medic role needs more ammo the way it is. No, they don't. That change would further deteriorate the structure of the game and the role's usefulness and focus on their specialty. You'd have players that would almost never revive because they'd be focusing on combat as it would be their strength. The fact that they could revive would just be a secondary bonus. Learn more about how I feel about the medic role at the top right, but the same thing would happen if you give the flamethrower loadout regular firepower. It would cease to be a focus of the loadout and just be a secondary bonus. So what do I suggest? Well, one of 2 things. Either simply replace the pistol with a different weapon, or change the loadout levels to where the pistol loadout is unlocked at level 6 and the loadout with more firepower unlocked at level 8. Or whatever levels seem appropriate. 6 and 8, 8 and 10, whatever. For the US, I would suggest either the grease gun or the M1 carbine with 2 extra mags. If you want to give them 3 or 4 magazines, then you gotta take away the smoke grenades. But personally, I think 3 or 4 extra mags is too many. Germany would get an MP40 with 2 mags, and the Soviets would actually get a flamethrower, either the ROKS 2 or 3, and a PPSH 43 with 2 magazines. You see what I did there? This change would help improve the role's survivability without making them a singular force to be reckoned with. They'd still have to play with their squads to remain useful and effective over time, and it would help them often remain in situations where their flamethrower could help their squad. 2. Effective range. Right now the flamethrowers have a range of 23 meters. This is too short. There have been calls to make these things able to shoot 50 plus meters, and I think that's ridiculous. I think the people who want that simply want this weapon to be a versatile type weapon that they can use anywhere. I don't. It's specialized and I want to keep it specialized. But 23 meters is too short. It's hard to find sources that agree on the range that these things had in real life, but they all seem to be between 30 to 45 meters depending on the model and fuel type used. I think a range of about 35 to 40 meters would be pretty perfect for Hell Let Loose. Say 38 meters. I think it would be cool to have a little asymmetry here, but with there not being any consistent information on range, it might just be best to keep them all functioning identically. But of course, that was just a quick Google search. I'm sure someone could find better sources if they wanted to. So increase the range no less than 35 meters and no more than 40 meters. 3. Burn time. Right now, burn time for the fire is 10 seconds. I think that's too short, as area denial should be a strength of the weapon, and 10 seconds just isn't long enough to fulfill that role. I think this should be doubled to 20 seconds burn time. Any longer and I think it becomes OP, any less and I think it can't do its job. 4. Burn area. Fire is something that cannot be controlled once unleashed. I'd like this reflected in the game, with fire gaining the ability to spread. I'm not talking about across the entire map or anything, but I think it should spread roughly 10 meters over that 20-second burn time. This will benefit you in regards to area denial, as you'll gain area, but could also hurt you if you foolishly fire too close to friendly positions. Remember, it's a deliberate weapon, and this would help reinforce that. 5. Player exemption. Now, to contrast what I just said, what happened to me quite a few times while playing the role is that I would accidentally kill myself, usually while trying to fire and move around a corner. I would just barely clip the corner and I ended up lighting myself on fire and then dying right as I was about to light up a bunch of enemy soldiers. This just sucked the fun right out of it. I don't expect a lot of people to agree with me here, and I'm sure I'll get the response in the comments of just, get good, Gebatron. But I think the player wielding the flamethrower should just slightly be more resistant to fire damage. Not enough to be able to use it as a tactic, but enough to be able to survive a brush with fire. You should not be able to walk through it, and you'd have to bandage yourself within a very short period of time, but you could survive the odd brush with fire from your own shot. I'm not willing to burn on this hill, but it is something I would like to see. 6. Destruction. The flamethrower needs to be more destructive on the field. It should be able to destroy enemy supplies, ammo boxes, ammo drops, and repair stations. It should be able to destroy trucks using less fuel than it currently does. Right now it takes half a tank to destroy jeeps and just over 3/4 of a tank to destroy trucks and half-tracks. I'd like this to change to a quarter tank for jeeps, half a tank for trucks, and 3/4 of a tank for half-tracks. I'm fine with them not destroying mines, as mines, are in a protective casing, although I will admit that I do not know how fire affects mines in the real world. Now, ideally, I'd like flamethrowers to be able to destroy enemy barricades and bunkers that are constructed of wood, but I think this would mean they'd have to implement a health system to these assets, and that's probably more work than it's worth, but I would like that. 7. Suppression. Fire is hot. Just because you're not engulfed in flames doesn't mean that, it doesn't have an effect on the field or that you can stand right next to it. I think there should be a suppression effect starting when you come within 5 meters of fire, getting more intense the closer you get until you become engulfed in flames. I think this would help in a few ways. First, it would just reinforce that the battlefield is a dangerous place, and players would just have to be that much more aware of it. Second, it would let players know they are in danger, almost like an early warning system for things like environmental fire. third is that it would enable the flamethrower to have an effect without having to directly hit their target, similar to how all the other weapons already work. Now I could see where this suppression effect coupled with the 10-meter fire spread could cause players to think it may become OP, and maybe you're right, but it is something I would like to see at least in a PTE or test it out a while before making that call. If I did have to pick between fire spread or suppression, I would 100% pick suppression. 8. Turning speed. I think turning speed is fine. I know that gets brought up a lot, but I personally like the reduction in turn speed. If I was to get extra picky, I would make it so our turn speed wasn't reduced during bracing, but during firing, as pre-firing is important with flamethrowers, but that's just a nitpick. 9. Armor. I also know that a lot of people want these to be effective against armor. I don't think that's necessary for Hell Let Loose. I could not find any examples of flamethrowers being used against armor in my research, although apparently it was tested and found to be effective when fired at the tank's engine compartment, specifically the air intake system. Apparently Molotov cocktails were used in this way as they were more easily transported, and many could be carried by multiple soldiers. So while I'm fine with it the way it is, I would happily agree to a mechanic where fire could damage and eventually destroy a tank's engine, and engine only, if it were to be hit by enough fire from the rear. But I would like it to be difficult, so maybe it would take, at least 3/4 of a tank to pull this off, maybe even a full tank. You'd have to have a pretty ignorant crew in the tank to accomplish this feat, but it would also make for a cool achievement if you're into it. Okay. There's the list of changes I would like to see to the flamethrowers and fire, and how that all works. Remember to put your thoughts and ideas down in the comments. Developers do pay attention to these types of videos, and the engagement from the community does sometimes help shape the future of these games. So drop a comment whether you agree with me or not. I hope you enjoyed the video and I at least gave you something to think about. Pull the trigger on that like button, share this with your friends or community, subscribe for more, check for a pinned comment as I usually just, put any updates or really good ideas from you guys in there. Check the description for more links to help support the channel. Consider joining Gebatron Gaming for perks like early access to new videos. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.